Hi and welcome to Two Wheels Better from Silkaleen Oils in Belper, Derbyshire. Bit of a strange background, not very motorcycling, but we're going to go through the labs, we're going to talk to a few people, look at a few engines and show you what it's all about. So John, what is so special about motorcycle oils?
Well, in the old times, oil was a fairly basic material, didn't last very long. People were used to changing oil pretty rapidly. Also, they were used to engines that didn't last very long either. But over the years, the engines developed, became more advanced, and of course the oil was developed along with it. And it was enhanced chemically in various ways. Later synthetics were used. And the idea of this was to reduce wear in the engine, to keep carbon particles in suspension so you don't get sludges or blocked filters, and also to make the oil behave in the cold so you get a good cold start, and at the same time behave when it's very hot as well. Consequently, the engines, as they've advanced, the oil has advanced with it, and I think people fail to realise that even a fairly basic oil is quite an advanced product, really.
Now, a lot of what you said applies to car engines and bike engines, but I remember when I was a lad, 2050 oils, I used to use in my bike engine, it just didn't seem a problem. But now that is not the thing to do. Oils for motorcycles are particularly specialised, aren't they?
Yes, that's true. The problem is, particularly over fairly recent years, the motorcycles diverged a lot from the car. The cars become very reliable, the oil is fill and forget. The motorcycle, the power...
They're still reliable, aren't they, bikes?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The motorcycles become very, very powerful. The brake horsepower per litre is very high. Unusual thing for these days is they run the oil in the gearbox, so it puts a lot of shear and stress into the oil. So it is really helpful to use a superior quality oil in a motorcycle.
Well, looking round here, look round your lab, you've got all sorts of interesting kit which I want you to show me, but what's this one we're in front of at the moment?
Well, this is a nice, easy thing to remember. It's an atomic absorption spectrophotometer.
And what does it do?
Whoa. It sprays oil into a flame, and the flame excites any molecules that might be in there.
Well, it looks pretty exciting to me, isn't it?
Oh, yes. In this particular case, we're looking for calcium in the oil, which is a detergent, part of a detergent additive. And you can see it as a red colour in the flame.
Yeah.
But what's actually happening is that the lamp is emitting characteristic calcium light here. The detector is picking up any calcium that appears in the flame, and you can detect just a few parts per million. It's used regularly as a quality control test on all our oils, motorcycle and otherwise, that contain calcium-based detergents. These are the things that wash the carbon deposits out of the ring grooves, valve stems, and disperse it in the oil as black particles, which are totally harmless. The oil might look black, but it's not doing any harm, and this is because of the detergent additive, which is measured on this device here.
Viscosity is an interesting thing. How do you measure viscosity? Can we have a look at that?
Oh yes, well we've got some kit downstairs if you'd like to come with me.
Okay then, John, we're at the little testing machine here. What does this one actually do?
Well, this tests oils at very low temperatures. Everyone's heard of 10W20, 10W40 oil, 20W50. The W stands for winter, so in there we're generating a localised winter temperature, if you like, of minus 10 degrees centigrade.
Hence the frost on the top.
That's right, that's why it's got some frost on the top. If it passes this test, which we do by turning the rotor on, letting the rotor spin.
And that's just a paddle in there,
it's just turning inside the very cold oil sample.
Yeah.
If it passes the test, we can then say it's 20W,
right,
which is the temperature at which is the specification level for minus 10 degrees C.
Right, and you simply get that from the amount of current taken, and then you've got a little chart or whatever.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
right.
work out.
Yeah, you can work it back from that.
Oh, okay, so that's cold temperature. What do we do then for the hot temperature? You put a flame underneath it, do you?
Not quite. No, that's a bit too extreme. 100 degrees centigrade is the hot temperature, and we've got some equipment over here if you'd like to come and have a look at it.
Okay. Well, when John brought me to this freezer, I thought we were going to have an ice cream, but that's not the case, is it?
Oh, later maybe.
Thanks. What have we got here then?
Well, before we go into the subject of viscosity, I thought just to emphasise this business about cold temperatures and oils. This is what happens if you cool an old-fashioned monograde.
Yeah.
Nearly got that wrong myself. An old-fashioned monograde oil down, such as would have been around in the 1950s.
That's when they were sort of straight 40s.
Yeah, that's right, straight 40s. That is a straight 40 actually.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine trying to start an engine in that in a freezing cold day.
And you're not having me on, are you? That isn't sort of painted in there.
Oh, no,
that
no,
is for real.
Honest, yeah. It will start to move if you keep it in your hot little hand for a while.
No wonder engines were difficult to start.
Now, this is a modern 1050 multigrade, also down at the same temperature, minus 20 degrees.
Yeah.
It's pretty thick, but the engine would survive starting in that.
Yeah.
A couple of other interesting things. This is a synthetic base oil of the sort that's used in aircraft engines and in better quality motorcycle oils. And there's a mineral oil.
Good grief.
And
that's not dripping, is it?
The interesting thing is there's the two just at ordinary room temperatures, exactly the same two oils there.
Yeah. Good grief. Very graphic.
But if you cool them down,
yeah.
So that's one of the advantages of modern synthetic oil. It's fluid at low temperatures.
And what's the one on the very end?
That's another motorcycle multigrade 1550.
It looks like a Silker to me, that pink colour.
What a coincidence! Yeah.
Tell me, when you talk about base oil, what do you mean by that? I mean, because that doesn't look like oil to me; it looks like water.
Oh well, it's because it's a synthetic chemical, really.
Yeah.
The sort that have been used in aircraft engines for many years. It's the sort of things that allows an F-16 to start up straight away in Alaska, shall we say. They use the same sort of thing. But there is quite a high proportion of that in this.
All right.
It's very beneficial, particularly to motorcycle engines, because apart from assisting the low temperature performance, they're also very good at high temperatures and have some useful load carrying effects on highly stressed surfaces such as gears and camshafts.
And me. And what's this weird looking contraption we've got here?
Well, this is another method of measuring viscosity. We've looked at low temperature viscosity. Well, this is high temperature viscosity. It's a bath of oil at exactly 100 degrees centigrade, which is a typical sump temperature on a motorway, or if you're getting a move on,
Yeah.
So we take a sample of oil and run it through these special glass tubes. It's necessary to time the oil through that fine glass capillary there.
It's almost like an egg timer principle,
Yeah,
then, is
that's
it?
right. Yeah, it just allows the oil to fall down under gravity at exactly 100 degrees. And the rate at which it travels through this narrow glass tube gives you a figure. The actual units are called centistokes. And all the SAE numbers, which are not W, are assessed in this sort of apparatus. So in other words, if it's SAE 20, 30, 40, 50 or even 60, which does exist, it'll have a specification at this temperature. So for example, SAE 50 is, from memory, 16.3 to 21.9 centistokes. So if we have an SAE 50 oil in here, it should give an answer of about 18 units.
All right. So what do you actually do? You fill up that tube then, do you?
Yeah, that's the idea. Draw the oil up.
Oh, you draw it up from the bottom,
The
yeah.
vacuum into the top section.
I got it, yeah.
And as it passes the top mark, start a stopwatch.
Yeah.
As it passes the bottom mark, stop the stopwatch, and from the time you can work out the viscosity.
Right, your little wear machine here. I must say I don't recognise any of these bits from my bike, John. What have we got here?
Well, this is a simple wear test machine that looks at the load carrying ability of oil. It rotates a Timken roller race there. It spins around like that, picks up a film of oil, and then it traps the film of oil between the rotating bearing race there and a steel billet.
And is that ordinary steel?
This is ordinary mild steel. The idea is just so that all the wear occurs on one component, and it generates either a wear scar or it seizes the thing solid. It's interesting that very often high performance oils intended for cars don't give a particularly good result on this. Although on the other hand, wear machines have to be treated with caution. They must relate to what really happens in the engine, and they can be misleading under some circumstances.
Right. So that little billet, you fix that into your jig so you can keep changing these, can't you, for different oils?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And what oil are we going to test here, then?
Well, there's just a sample of very high quality 5W40 car engine oil.
Ooh, what happened there then, John?
Well, that was a seizure, as you probably guessed.
That happened very quick. Were you expecting that to happen so quick?
Well, yeah, because I've
I
tested.
like the way it's...
Because I've tested the oil before, you see.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, this is actually quite a moderate load, and a high quality oil with the right sort of synthetic content intended for motorcycle use would stand that load very easily.
Would it?
Oh yeah. A similar test on an oil that's, shall we say, more designed for the job of carrying a lot of load would show.
You've got a few that you've done earlier by the looks.
Yes, this is it. This is the one I did earlier.
Yeah.
Show a much smoother scar, and that's actually run for 2 minutes. The way I normally run these tests is run them at a load they will stand for 2 minutes, and then measure the scar area, and you can work your way back to what's called the film strength. In other words, there's a film of oil sitting there between that scar area and the rotating bit, which is supporting the load, you see, which is the strength of the oil film.
So that must have lasted all of 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, that's a fully certificated, good quality oil.
Very good quality, yeah.
And our motoring viewers needn't worry.
No, it's very adequate for the job it's intended to do. Yeah.
Now that's your wear test one, and then you've got another little machine behind us, which is the friction one, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Can we see what you do with that one?
Oh, yeah.
This is your friction machine. It looks like a sort of a crank, conrod, and what could be a piston. But what's the difference between the friction machine and the wear machine that we've just seen then?
Well, friction is energy that's lost as two surfaces rub together, and you can minimise this a number of ways. You can reduce the viscosity of the oil. On the other hand, that's dangerous because you could get in a situation where there's more wear, so you have to be careful what you do. Well, there's various chemical ways of doing it, and it's really minimising the amounts of energy that is lost around the engine, just due to surfaces rubbing together.
Well, that certainly looks very thin oil in there. What's that you've got under test now?
Well, that is actually a shock absorber oil or a suspension fluid.
Right.
As you can see, it's moving fairly slowly at the moment. We can run it much faster. We've developed motorcycle suspension fluids on this, and we look at friction reduction and reduction in stick slip so as to give a really smooth action.
And again, the old weights hanging off the old spring.
Yeah, in this case it's a cast iron plate at the bottom there and a pin-shaped test piece which you lower into position.
Yeah. Oh, I see that the pen's just started off recording.
And of course, if there's any friction, it comes out this way, and it's measured by a transducer here.
Ah, right, okay.
Measuring against this arm.
And it's picked up on the chart. And so, how fast will this go? Will this get up to 14,000?
No, it actually gets up to 400. You have to stand back. It's only doing 100, 98 at the moment. Yeah.
So the oil starts splashing around a bit.
Oh, it does, yeah. In actual fact, it's got a modification of my own here. I read up the relevant chapter in Phil Irving on tuning for speed, and
did you?
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
And you put a counterbalance on there.
And there's a counterbalance on there because it is just like a Manx Norton engine, really, isn't it? And the vibration was pretty awful. It started to walk across the lab.
So this is a special John Rowland tuned tester,
that's right.
then,
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
So welcome to Wayne's Bit. Wayne's Bit of what? It's Wayne's dirty weekend away. Because the fact is, we've been having letters to the Two Wheels Better office complaining about the fact that Paul will not let me ride bikes. Well, the truth is, I'm here to do my little bit on a bike, because I am the bit on the side. The bit on the side of a trial sidecar, and this is what I do on a Sunday afternoon. Check this out. So what on earth, you might ask, am I doing stood on one of these sidecars? Well, this is sidecar trials, and this is something I do every Sunday, would you believe, for pleasure. This is the Peak Trial, held in Derbyshire, and ran by the Sheffield and Hallamshire Motor Club. And this is round 10 of a 10-round British Championship for experts and clubmen sidecars. This is the start of the event, and the guys are getting their punch cards ready to go out and do their bit. And we have a little chat before we start, and then a little guy says off you go and gives you around 5.5 hours to complete the course. A section, this happens to be section 9. There's around 40 sections per event, and the idea is to go and walk the section, see what it's all about. There's the end marker. They're usually around 20 yards long. Having walked it, seen what you've got to do, actually have a go on the bike. This is Chris Bishop, and he's ready to go through the mud, as you can see. It's a pretty nasty muddy game, and that lovely shiny gas is now obviously a dirty grotty gas. That's Paul Avery on his bike, and that's his bike ready to go into the next section. You don't often see bikes sat in a stream on a Sunday. Usually they're parked up in the garage or being polished. There we do, we walk the section. We've actually seen that chap, that's Steve Radford, have a go at what we've then got to have a go at, and we watch their every move. Poor old Chris Bishop here, he's failed unfortunately. So we're walking, kicking around in the mud. Just think, when you're 10 years old and you walk around the mud like that, Mum used to clip you over the back of the ear. Get out of that mud, I've got to wash them flipping claws. It's good fun, I can tell you, and the idea here, would you believe, this is technical. We're making a pathway, making life easy for ourselves, getting an idea of exactly where we want to put our wheels, so when we get in that point, hopefully we'll get through it. So Robin says, come on, let's get on with it then, and away we go. I can't say it's the hardest thing in the world, but there are occasions where you seem to get in difficulty. And it also is a little frightening on occasion, but stuff like this isn't so bad, apart from you think, if we do flip it here, I'm going to get cold and wet. We're turning left to turn right. That's just trying to make life a little easier for ourselves for the next bit in the section. And that's that muddy bit, for which a good push by Robin's right leg gets us beyond the marker. The markers there, it's a blue marker and a red marker indicating the end, and as long as the front wheel spindle goes past those markers, that's a mark. That guy's not actually straightening my tie, he's clipping my card, and then we take that halfway around the event, we take it back to the officials, and they add up the scores. And the way the scores simply work, if you put your foot down once in the section, that is, the rider puts his foot down, he gets 1 mark. He puts it down twice, he gets 2 marks, and if he carries on pushing for 3 or as many times as he wishes, it's 3 marks. But should he stop or fall off or go out of the markers before the ends card, then unfortunately it's 5 marks, and at the end of the day it's the guy with the least amount of marks. And Jill here is a partner with Robin Morwood, and Jill Morwood, our arch rivals, and they came second in the championship last year, and unfortunately for them, second in the championship this year. This is Bob Cairns and his mate, who've just done pretty well finishing that section off early in the trial, and there's us having a go at the same thing, but fortunately we keep our feet up there. And there's me getting my card punched yet again. So now then, look at that, Robin's trying to get up there, and it looks like it's going to be a little easier to walk up than get up on the bike, and as you can see, it isn't so easy to get up on the bike. And poor Roger Tuck there just steps off, disappointed because they didn't get up it. Now, Chris Bishop there has had a different direction to go, because he's in the clubman section. They don't actually go up the same place, and neither does Bob Cairns. He's having to get up the clubman section. As you can see, there's a fair bit of pushing goes on. And we come down the bank here and then up the other side. And this poor chappie here, now he thought he had a good vantage spot, but in actual fact, Father Christmas's helper has realised it's not necessarily a good place to stand. And this is just going from one section to the other. This isn't marked, this is us getting from one place to the next. And Steve Radford and Roger Tuck completing on 2 wheels for the change, the section. Sometimes you do ride round on 2 wheels rather than 3, just makes life a little easier. Sometimes you've got to do it that way, otherwise you'll fall over. And this is us attempting the same section, having to try a little harder, but fortunately just about getting there. And a little ripple of applause, which sometimes goes down very well, boosts your morale up, especially if you're cold and wet. As you can see, it's getting a little misty and cloudy because we're up in the hills, and it can get a little bit like that on some occasions. Frosty, you know, you can get frost on your eyebrows. Go on, wind that throttle up. Mrs. Phil and Matt Sparks having just a little bit of trouble up a really difficult section. As you can see, he's buzzing that back tyre and there's plenty of rubber smoke coming from it, and unfortunately coming to a halt. Will Baines here. Now Mick, his passenger there, isn't his regular passenger. He normally has Justine in, his girlfriend, and they do a splendid job, but I believe Justine's having some work done on at the moment and having a few days off. Solo trials lads as well, doing the same sections as us. They're not in a championship, they're just enjoying the day out and having healthy competition. And as you can see, they do the same as us, and sometimes finding it as difficult as we do, if not more difficult. Robin and Jill having a damn good go at this section 9, and it proved to be one of the best sections of the day. And a couple of prods as he got there, and a good push at the top, and I think he got away with that, giving him 3 marks for that attempt at the section. And this fella here, Paul Avery, he moved up from clubman class last year, having won the championship, into the expert class, and he's having a bit of trouble as well as not quite making it. It really is a good section, and I don't really think you'd appreciate the degree of incline on that hill. It took some walking up, never mind riding the bike up. It's keeping going, but I think comes to a stop at this point. There's the poor observer stood right at the top of the hill where all the wind is blowing and it's freezing. And this is Robin and myself having our attempt. And I might say, beautiful passenger work there, excellent. And the rider didn't do a bad job either. Now we've moved over to another group of sections. We've done a few miles on the road as well. And that's why you may have noticed that there's number plates on the back of these bikes. They are in fact road legal and have to be, because we do travel on the road, usually around 20-25 miles around the course. And the number one priority with us all is to enjoy yourself and have a really good laugh. Right, Robin, let's do it. So after 40 sections completed, it's back to base. And on this occasion we scored 26 marks, and the least amount of marks is the winner. So having won it again, maybe Paul may just let me have a go on a bike.
Wayne, there's absolutely no chance. And in next week's Two Wheels Better, we'll be giving you some ideas on what you can buy your baby bikers this Christmas.